Hey guys, welcome to another Frame Voyager video, and we're gonna be talking about... I told you guys to get rid of this. Why are we still doing this video? No, I don't want to. We're not doing it. We're doing a different video. I'm not doing another Is It Worth It video. We're not doing it.
Simulation terminated. The host has become unstable and refuses to make clickbait videos. Initiating. Reboot sequence FV 0.2.
I got a heart that won't behave. I got a mind gonna make me insane.
FV 0.2 initiated. Clickbait video commencing in 3, 2, 1.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Frame Voyager video. Let's talk about the Pocket 6K Pro and if it's still worth it or not in this brand new year. Let's get into some Quickfire specs, just as a quick refresher on this camera. It was released in February 18th, 2021, last year. A resolution of 6144 by 3456, which is 6K, and it's up to 50 frames per second. It's a Super 35 sensor, a dynamic range of 13 stops, an active EF mount, dual native ISO, 400/3200, swiveling touchscreen with 1500 nits of brightness, built-in ND filters, an optional viewfinder, 2 mini XLR inputs, and all of the buttons and features you'd come to expect on a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema camera, all with the base price of $24.95. Now, all of these features packed into a camera this affordable seems like an incredible deal, especially when you consider some of the Canon and Sony lines of cameras that can cost far north of $2,500. And for a lot of those, they don't even come close to producing the image quality that these cameras are capable of. But there is a bit of a catch when it comes to these Blackmagic cameras in particular. So let's get into the cons of this camera to start off with. I know a little backwards, but it's new year. So the first problem we can really point to is quality control issues. And this is not something new with BMD, and it's not really fully a deal breaker when it comes to these cameras, but it's just something to be aware of. A lot of BMD cameras early on have quality control issues. And I've seen some people who even to this day have received a Pocket 4K with the screen put in upside down. And in the 6K Pro, an issue I've seen pop up a lot of times in community groups is the internal ND filters getting stuck or knocked off track fairly easily. With more innovative market-breaking companies such as Blackmagic, a lot of this is bound to happen. Are the cameras weather sealed? No. Are there issues with the ports sometimes being easy to break if you're rough with them? Yes. But all in all, you're getting an incredible high-end image that might not even be on the street that our cameras live on, but it's at least in the neighborhood as far as footage quality. And what I'm not trying to do here is make excuses for the specific con of the Pocket 6K Pro, but just this to make you aware of the fact that you'll have to be a bit more careful with these cameras than you would with like a Sony or Canon. And with any smaller company you deal with, it's just part of it. And as long as you contact BMD right away with any issues and stay on top of keeping your gear protected, you'll be fine. And I mean, really, like if you owned an Ari, are you just gonna be throwing it around anyways or not protecting it? The next con would be the accessories for this camera. And I'm not saying that they have bad options for it, merely that you have to have them in a lot of situations with relatively bad battery life of only around 30-ish minutes. And for me, it's really more like the 25-minute range that I've experienced. You have to have a battery solution if you plan to use this far away from a power outlet. And most people will go with a V-mount battery system, which often requires a cage, but there are some V-mount batteries out there that you can attach to the bottom, or even the battery grip that Blackmagic made specifically for this camera, which works very well without a cage system. So you can get by without a bunch of accessories and cage system for this camera, but it's not as easy as doing it with like a Sony or Canon camera. And again, if you really plan to use this camera to its full potential, you're probably going to want to like get a cage for it so you can attach different things to it, especially, you know, for this this kind of camera. And again, this is really the distinction between a cinema camera and a prosumer hybrid camera. Another very important issue to note is this camera's slow rolling shutter at its top resolution setting. At that 6K resolution, it has about a 20 millisecond rolling shutter, and rolling shutter is simply the way the sensor captures an image. It doesn't activate all of the sensor at the same time, but scans across it. And you can think of those TikTok videos where it slowly scans from the top of the video to the bottom, but as it does, if something moves down here, it stays that way. That's essentially what rolling shutter will do to your footage. Granted at a smaller scale, but it's noticeable in the Pocket 6K Pro if you start jerking your camera around or moving it rapidly if you need to, which causes kind of like that warbling effect at like the corners of your image. And if you compare this to the Pocket 4K, which has been said to have issues with this too, at the Pocket 4K at its 4K resolution is at a 16.2 millisecond, which is 4 milliseconds faster than the 6K Pro. And that's just to kind of give you some perspective on it. And it's not really a full deal breaker, but if you need to film something quick run and gun with faster camera movements, you can drop the 6K Pro's resolution to actually the 6K 2 to 4 to 1 resolution setting, which has an estimated 14.7 milliseconds rolling shutter. So that actually brings you down almost a whole 6, well, a whole 5. But it's something to think about when buying this camera is if you're planning on shooting a lot of like fast moving stuff and running around, you can do it, but you're going to have to adjust some of the settings to get the best out of it versus some other cameras on the market that you could get. And lastly, because you are filming in BRAW and you can only film in BRAW in the 6K resolution, you have very large file sizes. But if you're used to filming with this kind of footage already, it's not that much of a change. But consider this, at the highest quality, you'd burn through about 20 gigabytes every minute. And at the lowest setting, you'd hit about 4 gigabytes a minute. So get ready for lots of storage if you purchase this camera. All right, now that we've talked about the camera's dirty little secrets, let's talk about the pros of owning it. BRAW, and I know we kind of just talked about BRAW a little bit with the storage, but it's still an incredible codec. BMD's proprietary BRAW codec. And while this is more of a hybrid RAW and it's not a true RAW, something we'll discuss in another video this year, it's still highly optimized for editing. Not only can you change the white balance in post, but a host of other things like your ISO. And for me, its greatest quality is how easy it is to edit. I use Adobe Premiere, which I know is like sacrilegious in this world of black magic when you're supposed to use DaVinci Resolve, but I find that in Adobe Premiere, that Sony files, GoPro, and DJI files lag so much more and take so much longer to load and play back on the timeline than BRAW files, even though the BRAW files are so much larger. I don't know what BMD did with the BRAW codec. It's just really that good. And you don't even have to pay for a license to it like some other camera companies out there. ND filters. Even though we had the ND filters sort of in the cons section, they are still an excellent addition to this camera and really make it easy on the go to switch between the different levels of ND filters. This reduced extra parts and pieces that you have to carry around, which is really great for all of you run and gun filmmakers out there, including myself, as long as an airline doesn't drop it on a tarmac. Next would be the optional Viewfinder that you can purchase as an add-on to this camera, which honestly just put in the pros list, I guess. I don't love it, but it's a nice piece to have if you need it, and to be able to even purchase, I guess, if you need it. So it's on the pros. The next would be the affectionately named Tilty Screen. This has been a long time coming, and I feel like in these cameras, BMD really delivered a decent tiltable touchscreen that makes it easier to not always have to carry around a monitor, an external monitor with you at all times. And that extra, that 1500 nits of brightness is really nice. And the 6K resolution of this camera is really its main selling point. But I mean, most of us won't really output in 6K, but we typically will downscale to 4K, with some people downscaling to 1920 by 1080. And in doing this, you could eliminate some noise from the footage as well as cropping into footage without losing quality. Needless to say, this resolution works very well for interviews, in my opinion, as you can have multiple angles from just one shot, or, set up a shot. And if you have like something off, it's really easy to come in and kind of fix it in post. 6K footage, if you need it, it's really nice. And next will be the dual native ISO system in this camera. And it feels like something that will eventually become an industry standard in cameras that are used to film. This essentially gives you 2 ISO systems in one camera with natives at 400 and 3200. This means that in low light situations, you can switch over from that higher system at 3200 and get cleaner footage without having to bring in a ton of lights. And while this camera does shine best in ideal lighting conditions, we're not all in studios or in the perfect positions to always be able to light something properly. And a lot of times we have to rely on natural lighting. So while you should always try to light well, having dual native ISO gives you more options when you start to run out of them. So we've talked a lot about the pros and cons and features of this camera, and while a lot of you might know a lot of this information already, I really wanted to set the table for who this camera is for and whether or not it's still worth it in 2022. I'm closing in on having had this camera for about 9 months now, and I've taken it with me on about 20 to 25 different filming trips for clients, YouTube, travel documentaries. It's been with me to the middle of nowhere, Alaska in sub-zero conditions to the scorching hot Midwest in the middle of the summer. I've used it for interviews, time lapses, vlogs, talking heads, run and gun work, and more, and it's always done. It's done what it's supposed to do. The only issue I've had really with it is after, again, it got dropped on the plane of the tarmac. And even then, the only thing that broke was the internal ND filters. All of this to say, to finally answer the question of is it worth it in 2022? Yes. When looking at the market and all the other cameras on the market and the Canon and the Sony and the prices that they have on their cameras and the features that they have on their cameras, I still think BMD gives you the best image quality out of all of them. Does it come with all of the crazy bells and whistles? No. Or is it worth it over the other camera industries? Sure. But is it worth it over other Blackmagic cameras? And I would say this for those who have done the research, who are a bit more advanced in filming, have specific needs for having 6K footage. I think this camera, yes, it's worth it for you. I would recommend if you're starting out filming or just converting over from hybrid cameras, unless you have a specific use case for the 6K footage, or it specifically helps you out with a client or your feature film, or you need those 2 XLR inputs, you'd still be better off going and buying a Pocket 4K because you could still buy an EF lens and get an adapter with that. And sure, you could use all $1,300 to do that. And to me, really consider if you need that 6K footage that this camera provides. So in short, yes, it's worth it. It's an excellent camera and it will be valuable for quite some time, but have a reason you need it. Otherwise, consider buying the Pocket 4K and building from there. That would be my suggestion. But yes, it's worth it in 2022, but consider if it's worth it for you in 2022. And that's it for this video, but I think you guys would like this video right here. It's more fun information, 6K Pro. Have fun watching it. It's a weird video, but have fun 2022.